At 8 years old, she vanished without a trace and woke up in a billionaire's mansion with no memory. Years later, the truth finally resurfaces, right as she's forced into a marriage she never chose. But when she discovers her fiancé is cheating, she doesn't just run, she starts hunting for proof. And the billionaire who raised her? He's been hiding something that will change everything. Linda was 8 years old when the world ended twice. The first ending came in the form of a loud, screeching sound, tires fighting rain-slick pavement, and the second came in silence when she opened her eyes and couldn't remember who she was. She didn't know her name, she didn't know her mother's face, she didn't know why her pajamas were wet at the hem or why she tasted copper when she swallowed. She only knew that someone was carrying her, running, the scent of expensive cologne mixing with the cold bite of night air. Above her, the sky was the color of bruises. A man's voice broke through the panic. "Easy, easy, she's breathing. Get the doctor." "Now." Another voice, a woman's, trembling and sharp, answered, "She's just a child. Who would do this? Who would leave her?" "Not here," the man snapped, then softened instantly when Linda whimpered, Hey, sweetheart. You're safe. I've got you." Safe. That word did not belong to Linda's body. Her small limbs shook, her teeth clicked together, and when she tried to speak, the only sound that came out was a thin, terrified sob. The man carried her into light. Crystal chandeliers, tall marble columns, a sprawling foyer with a staircase that curved like something from a fairy tale. People rushed, voices overlapping. Linda was placed on a leather sofa that swallowed her small frame. Someone pressed a warm blanket around her shoulders. Another person brought a glass of water. A doctor arrived with a kit, and through it all, Linda stared at the man who had carried her. He was young then, late teens, maybe 20, with a stern face that didn't look like it had learned how to smile yet. But his eyes were the kind that remembered people, the kind that didn't forget. He crouched in front of her. "Do you know your name?" Linda blinked. Her throat tightened. She shook her head. "Do you know where you live?" She shook her head again, harder this time, as if the motion could push the terror away. The young man's jaw tightened. His gaze flicked to the doctor and back. "It's okay," he said, voice gentler than his face. "We'll figure it out. I promise." That night, Linda went missing from her old life. The next day, she woke up in a bedroom larger than her mother's entire apartment, though she didn't remember her mother, didn't remember an apartment, didn't remember anything that belonged to the word before. A maid brought her breakfast. A woman introduced herself as Mrs. Hawthorne, elegant, cold, with kindness that looked practiced. A man in a suit spoke on the phone in clipped tones about authorities and private investigators and "keep this out of the press." And the young man, the one who had carried her, stood in the doorway like a sentinel. "My name is Ethan," he said. "This is my family's home. You can stay here as long as you need." Linda stared at him. "Why?" Ethan's expression shifted, something raw flickering beneath the composed surface. "Because you were alone," he said simply. "And you shouldn't have been." So Linda stayed. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Her missing person posters faded on street poles she never saw. Her old life became a locked door no one could open because Linda didn't have the key. Memory. The Hawthornes were powerful. That much Linda understood even as a child. Their house ran like a quiet machine, every detail polished, every person trained to anticipate needs before they were spoken. Linda was given new clothes, new toys, new tutors. She was placed into a school where children wore uniforms that cost more than her old neighbor's monthly rent. If she had old neighbors, if she had an old home, if any of it existed outside the blank fog behind her eyes. And always there was Ethan. He never treated her like a pet project or a charity case. He didn't talk down to her. He didn't smother her with false sweetness. Instead, he sat with her when she woke from nightmares she couldn't explain. Sometimes he'd bring her books and read them aloud, his voice calm and steady. Other times he'd teach her small things: how to play chess, how to spot a lie in someone's tone, how to hold her head high even when her stomach churned with fear. One rainy afternoon when Linda was 10, she found Ethan in the family library, staring at a painting of an unfamiliar woman. "She looks sad," Linda said. Ethan didn't turn. "She was." "Who is she?" He hesitated. "My mother." Linda stepped closer, studying the woman's eyes. "Did she die?" "Yes," Ethan said. His voice was flat, but his knuckles were white. "A long time ago." Linda tilted her head. "Did she die because someone hurt her?" Ethan finally looked down at Linda. For a moment she thought he might say no, might lie gently the way adults did. But Ethan didn't lie. "Yes," he said quietly. "Someone hurt her, and no one paid the price." Linda didn't know why, but her chest squeezed. The sadness in the painted woman's eyes suddenly felt familiar. Ethan crouched and met Linda's gaze. "Listen to me," he said, voice low. "If you ever remember anything at all, you tell me, okay?" Linda nodded. "Promise." "I promise." Years passed. Linda grew up in a mansion that didn't feel like hers, surrounded by wealth that never quite belonged to her hands. She became a teenager with straight A's, a guarded smile, and a fierce independence that made the Hawthorne staff both proud and wary. Mrs. Hawthorne remained distant, her affection measured and conditional. Mr. Hawthorne treated Linda kindly, but like a problem he'd agreed to manage. Ethan, on the other hand, treated her like a person. He went away to university, then returned sharper, colder in public, his name whispered in financial circles and business pages. He became the heir everyone expected him to be: brilliant, controlled, untouchable. But when he came home late at night and found Linda curled on the couch with a blanket and a book, he'd pause, eyes softening in a way no one else ever saw. "You should be asleep," he'd say. Linda would lift her chin. "You should be less grumpy." He'd exhale something close to laughter. "Go to bed, Linda." "You first." And sometimes Ethan would sit down anyway, as if she had anchored him to something real. On Linda's 17th birthday, Ethan brought her a small velvet box. Inside was a simple necklace, silver, delicate, with a tiny pendant shaped like a star. "It's not flashy," Linda said, surprised. "It's yours," Ethan replied. "Not the family's, not the house's. Yours." Linda's throat tightened. "Why are you giving me this?" Ethan held her gaze. "Because I promised you'd be safe," he said. "And because—" He stopped. Because what? Because he cared. Because he always had. Because there were feelings he'd carried for years and locked away behind responsibility and propriety. Linda waited, heart pounding. Ethan's jaw clenched. He reached out and clasped the necklace around her neck himself. His fingers brushed her skin, and Linda's breath caught. "Because you matter," he finished, voice rough. "Happy birthday." Linda touched the pendant. It felt warm, like it had been holding his intention before it ever touched her. From that day, something shifted. Not in a dramatic way, not with confessions or sudden kisses, but in quiet glances that lingered too long, in silences that carried too much meaning. In the way Ethan's gaze tracked Linda when she entered a room, like he needed to reassure himself she existed. Linda noticed. Of course she did, but she didn't know what to do with it. Ethan was Ethan, untouchable, powerful, guarded, and she was the girl who had appeared one night with no memories and no past, a ghost adopted into someone else's life. So Linda did what she always did when something scared her. She ran towards something she could control. She met Gavin at university. He was charming in the way easy men were charming, handsome smile, flattering words, a laugh that made people lean in. He was the type who remembered birthdays and brought flowers and called Linda special in front of other people. He made her feel chosen. "Your family is so intense," Gavin said once, after a dinner where Ethan barely spoke to him. Linda forced a laugh. "You have no idea." Gavin squeezed her hand under the table. "I don't care," he murmured. "I care about you." Linda wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that love could be simple, that she could have something that wasn't wrapped in complicated history and unspoken feelings and the weight of being someone's rescued child. So she gave Gavin her trust. She gave him her time. She gave him pieces of herself she didn't even know she had. When Ethan heard about Gavin, he said nothing at first. Then, one evening, Linda found Ethan in the garden, staring at the fountain like it had offended him personally. "You're dating him," Ethan said without looking at her. Linda's spine stiffened. "Yes." "He's not good enough." Linda's temper snapped. "You don't even know him." Ethan turned then, eyes sharp. "I know men like him." "And what does that mean?" Linda demanded. "You think you're the only one allowed to have opinions?" "I think you're naive," Ethan bit out. "And I think he sees that." Linda's face burned. "I'm not naive." Ethan stepped closer, voice low and dangerous. "Then don't act like you are." For a second the air between them crackled, heavy with words neither of them said. Linda's heart hammered. Ethan's gaze dropped to her lips. Linda's breath hitched. Then Ethan stepped back abruptly, jaw clenched like he'd bitten down on something painful. "Do what you want," he said coldly. "It's your life." Linda swallowed, furious and shaken. "It is my life," she said, "and you don't get to control it." Ethan's eyes flashed. "I don't want to control you," he said. "I want to protect you." "From what?" Linda snapped. "From being happy?" Ethan's voice broke, just slightly, just enough for Linda to feel it like a crack in glass. "From being hurt," he said. Linda stared at him, chest tight, but she walked away anyway because it was easier to be angry than to admit she was scared too. Gavin proposed a year later. It happened in a restaurant with candles and applause. Gavin got down on one knee, opened a ring box, and said all the right things. Linda said yes. Everyone congratulated her, everyone except Ethan. He wasn't even there. Linda tried not to care. She told herself it didn't matter. Ethan had made his disapproval clear, and she wasn't going to let his cold, controlling attitude ruin her happiness. Then her mother's will arrived. Not Mrs. Hawthorne's. Not some elegant estate document from the family that had raised her. Her real mother's. It came in an envelope with legal letterhead, delivered by a law firm that had tracked Linda down after years of searching. The moment Linda held it, something deep inside her trembled, like her body recognized the weight of the paper, even if her mind didn't. Linda sat at the kitchen table with trembling hands as the lawyer spoke. "Your birth name is—" Linda flinched. She didn't want to hear a name she couldn't remember. The lawyer cleared his throat and continued carefully. "Your biological mother passed away several years ago." Linda's chest tightened. "How?" The lawyer's expression softened. "The official report says illness," he said, "but there are circumstances. She suffered greatly after you disappeared. She never stopped looking for you." Linda's throat burned. "She died because I was missing?" The lawyer didn't answer directly. He didn't have to. Linda pressed a hand over her mouth. Tears blurred her vision, hot and sudden. Grief for a woman she couldn't remember crashed into her like a wave. The lawyer continued. "Your mother left a will that includes a significant inheritance," he said. "However, there is a condition." Linda's stomach sank. "Of course there is." The lawyer opened the document. The inheritance is to pass to you, but only if you marry Mr. Gavin Rowe. Linda froze. What? The lawyer's voice was professional but sympathetic. If you do not marry him, the inheritance transfers to your biological father. Linda's pulse spiked. My biological father. The lawyer nodded. He is alive, he said, but the will specifies that if you do not fulfill the marriage condition, he will lose access to the inheritance as well. The funds will be diverted elsewhere. Linda's mind spun. Why would her mother's will force her to marry Gavin? How could her mother have even known Gavin? None of it made sense. Linda's hands shook as she read the pages herself. The words were crisp and cold, as if the paper didn't care about the chaos it created. Must marry Gavin Rowe. Or inheritance forfeited. Father loses claim. Linda felt like the floor had vanished beneath her. That night she confronted Gavin. They were in his apartment. The city lights smeared across the windows behind him. Gavin looked up from his phone, smiling as if nothing in the world could threaten him. Linda held out the will. Did you know about this? Gavin's smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. Then it returned, smooth. Know about what? Linda's voice trembled. This condition, she snapped. It says I have to marry you. Gavin took the document, scanned it, then laughed lightly. Wow, he said. That's unexpected. Linda watched him closely. Her instincts, honed by years of uncertainty and survival, buzzed under her skin. You didn't answer me, she said. Gavin set the will down and moved toward her, hands open, soothing. Linda, come on, he murmured. Do you really think I'd have anything to do with that? It's your mother's will. My mother never met you, Linda said sharply. She died years ago. Gavin blinked. Then, maybe she had reasons. Maybe she wanted you taken care of. By you, Linda challenged. Why you? Gavin sighed as if she were being difficult. Does it matter? He said. We're engaged. We're getting married anyway. This just makes it official. Linda's stomach twisted. It matters to me. Gavin's eyes hardened for a moment, then softened again. You're stressed, he said gently. It's a lot, but it's fine. We'll get through it. Linda didn't feel fine. She felt trapped. The next weeks were a blur of wedding planning and legal meetings, all of it wrapped in the cold reality that her biological father, someone she didn't know, would lose everything if she didn't go through with it. Linda tried to tell herself it was simple. She already planned to marry Gavin. The will changed nothing. So why did her skin crawl every time Gavin smiled? Why did her stomach sink when he kissed her? Why did she feel more alone with her fiancé than she ever had in the Hawthorne mansion? The answer came one night when Linda borrowed Gavin's laptop. Her phone had died. She needed to send an email. Gavin was in the shower, humming. Linda opened the laptop. A message popped up in the corner of the screen. Last night was fun. When can I see you again? Linda's heart stopped. Her fingers moved without permission, clicking, opening the message thread. Photos, flirtation, dates, promises. Gavin calling another woman baby, in the same way he called Linda love. Linda's hands went numb. She scrolled. Her breath turned shallow. Then she saw it, an earlier message from Gavin to the woman. Don't worry. Once I'm married, I'll have access. After that, it's just a matter of time. Linda stared at the words until they blurred. A sound escaped her, half laugh, half sob. Gavin was cheating, and worse, he was using her. The shower turned off. Linda snapped the laptop shut, heart pounding so hard she thought she might faint. She stood there, shaking, as the bathroom door opened and Gavin stepped out, towel around his waist, hair wet, looking annoyingly handsome. Hey, he said casually, could have waited, you know. Linda swallowed hard. How long? she asked. Gavin paused. How long what? Linda's voice rose, trembling with fury. How long have you been cheating on me? Gavin blinked, then smiled like she'd told a joke. What? Linda's nails dug into her palms. Don't lie, she hissed. I saw it. For a moment, Gavin's expression flickered. Annoyance, calculation, then a cool emptiness that made Linda's blood run cold. So, he said slowly, you went through my messages. Linda laughed bitterly. That's your concern, Gavin shrugged. It's not ideal, he said, but fine. Yes, I've been seeing someone. Linda's eyes burned. Why? She demanded. Why propose? Why pretend? Gavin stepped closer, voice low. Because it's smart, he said, as if explaining something obvious. You come with a package, Linda. Money, connections, a name. Linda shook, disgust rising like bile. I'm a person, she whispered. Gavin's mouth curved. Sure, he said, and you'll be my wife. Linda's breath caught. I won't. Gavin's gaze sharpened. You will, he said, because you have to. The will, the inheritance. Your father, whoever he is, loses everything if you don't. Linda flinched. So you did know, she whispered. Gavin's silence was answer enough. Linda's vision blurred with tears of rage. You're a monster, she breathed. Gavin's smile turned cruel. No, he said. I'm realistic. You'll marry me, Linda, and then you can cry in your designer closet if you want. But you'll do it. Linda's body felt like ice. Fear and fury battled inside her. She ran. Out of the apartment, down the stairs, into the night air that slapped her skin awake. Her breath tore through her chest as she stumbled down the sidewalk, not caring where she went. Only that she needed to get away. Needed to think. Needed proof. Because Linda didn't just want to leave Gavin. She needed to destroy the trap he'd built. She needed evidence, something undeniable, to break the engagement without sacrificing her father's inheritance rights. And for the first time, Linda understood what Ethan had meant. I know men like him. Linda's hands shook as she called the one person she hadn't wanted to need. The phone rang once, twice. Then Ethan answered, voice crisp. Linda. Hearing his voice shattered something in her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Ethan, she whispered, trying to breathe. Silence. Then the edge in his tone sharpened. Where are you? Linda looked around. Street lights, an empty bus stop. Her reflection in a dark window. Pale, frantic. I don't know, she admitted, voice breaking. Ethan, I need help. There was no hesitation. Stay where you are, Ethan said, voice low and absolute. Don't move. I'm coming. 20 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up beside the curb like a shadow made solid. Ethan stepped out. He was wearing a dark coat, hair slightly disheveled, eyes blazing with something dangerous. The moment he saw Linda's face, his expression shifted. Rage, concern, and something deeper that made Linda's throat tighten. What happened? He demanded, reaching for her. Linda flinched instinctively, then leaned into him anyway, because she was too tired to pretend she didn't need comfort. Ethan's arms wrapped around her, firm and steady, like he could hold her together if she fell apart. Linda's voice came out muffled against his chest. He's cheating, she said. And he knew about the will. He's using me. Ethan went very still. Linda felt the tension ripple through him, like a predator scenting blood. He pulled back just enough to look at her. Are you hurt? He asked, scanning her face, her hands. No, Linda whispered. Not physically. Ethan's jaw clenched. Get in the car, he said. Now. Linda didn't argue. Inside the car, warmth wrapped around her, but her body still shook. Ethan slid in beside her, then spoke to the driver in a tone that made Linda's skin prickle. Home, he ordered, and call my legal team, immediately. Linda stared at him. Ethan. He turned to her, eyes dark. You said you need proof, he said. You'll have it. Linda swallowed. If I break the engagement without proof, my father loses the inheritance. Ethan's expression softened slightly. Then we won't let him lose it, he said. Linda's voice shook. I don't even know him. Ethan's gaze held hers. You deserve the truth about your past, he said, and you deserve to be free. The car rolled through the city, and Linda felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Back at the Hawthorne mansion, the world looked the same. Polished floors, quiet staff, the hum of money behind every detail. But Linda felt different. Ethan led her into his private study, a room few people entered. He poured her tea with steady hands, then sat across from her, eyes locked on her face like he couldn't look away. Tell me everything, he said. So she did. She told him about the will, the condition, the messages, Gavin's smug certainty. When she finished, Ethan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, voice low, I warned you. Linda flinched. I know. Ethan exhaled, some of his anger bleeding into exhaustion. I'm not saying it to make you feel worse, he said. I'm saying it because I hate that I couldn't stop it. Linda's eyes burned. You can stop it now. Ethan's gaze sharpened. Yes, he agreed. I can. Ethan stood and crossed to a cabinet. He opened it and pulled out a folder, thick, filled with documents. Linda frowned. What is that? Ethan hesitated, then set it on the desk between them. It's the file we've kept since you arrived, he said quietly. Private investigators, police reports, leads that went nowhere. Everything about the night you were found. Linda's chest tightened. You kept searching, she whispered. Ethan's eyes didn't waver. I never stopped, he said. Linda swallowed hard. Did you ever find anything? Ethan's jaw tensed. Not enough, he admitted, but maybe now. The will, the condition. Those are clues. Someone wanted you tied to Gavin. Someone orchestrated this. Linda's skin prickled. You think this is bigger than Gavin? Ethan's voice turned colder. I think Gavin is a tool, he said, and someone else is holding the handle. Linda's hands trembled as she reached for the folder. The paper smelled faintly of dust and ink, years of unanswered questions. She flipped through pages until she saw a photo. A small girl, her at 8, standing beside a road, eyes blank, blood on her sleeve. Linda's stomach lurched. That's me, she whispered. Ethan's voice softened. Yes. Linda turned the page, and something inside her head shifted. A flash, bright headlights, rain, a woman's scream. Linda gasped, clutching her temple. Ethan was beside her instantly. Linda, what is it? Linda's breathing turned ragged. I saw, she choked, a car, someone yelling my name. Ethan's grip tightened on her shoulder, grounding her. That's memory, he said urgently. You're remembering. Linda squeezed her eyes shut, trying to hold on to the images. Another flash, hands pulling her, a voice low and angry, a scent like cigarette smoke. Then darkness. Linda sagged, shaking. It's gone, she whispered. Ethan's eyes were intense. It's not gone, he said. It's coming back. Linda looked up at him, fear and hope tangled together. What do we do? Ethan's mouth set. We get you out of that wedding, he said. We get proof, and we find out who wrote that condition into your mother's will. Linda's voice cracked. How? Ethan's gaze was steady, dangerous. Because I'm not letting anyone use you again, he said. Not ever. The next days became a strategy war. Ethan's legal team combed through the will and its amendments. Private investigators followed Gavin. Technicians tracked Gavin's communications. Ethan's security team quietly tightened around Linda like a shield. And Ethan stayed close. He drove her to meetings. He sat beside her while lawyers spoke. He watched her like he was memorizing her face, as if he feared she might disappear again. One evening, Linda found herself in the mansion's kitchen, unable to sleep. She poured a glass of water with shaking hands. Ethan appeared in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. "You should be resting," he said. Linda gave a small, broken laugh. "So should you." Ethan crossed the room. "Are you scared?" he asked quietly. Linda stared at the water. "Yes," she admitted. "I feel like my whole life is someone else's plan." Ethan's voice softened. "Not anymore," he said. Linda looked up at him. "Why do you care so much?" she whispered. "You've always cared. Even when you were young. Even when you had no reason." Ethan's eyes held hers, dark and raw. "I had reasons," he said. Linda's heart hammered. "What reasons?" Ethan stepped closer, so close Linda could feel the heat of him. "Because I found you," he said, voice rough. "And from that moment I couldn't stop thinking. If I'd been there earlier, if I'd been faster, maybe you wouldn't have suffered." Linda's throat tightened. "Ethan. And then you grew up," he continued, jaw clenched. "And you became you. And I realized my reasons weren't just guilt." Linda's breath caught. What were they? Ethan's gaze dropped to her lips again. His hands hovered near her arms like he was fighting the urge to touch her. "You already know," he whispered. Linda's body felt like it was floating and sinking at once. "I don't," she lied. Ethan's expression flickered with pain. "You do," he insisted softly. "You've always known. You just didn't want it to be true." Linda's voice trembled. "Because it's complicated," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said. "It's complicated." His hand finally lifted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was gentle, reverent, like he was afraid she'd break. "But complicated doesn't mean wrong," he murmured. Linda's eyes burned with tears. "I'm supposed to marry Gavin," she whispered, the words tasting like poison. Ethan's gaze sharpened. "You're supposed to survive," he said. "You're supposed to be free." Linda swallowed hard. "And you," she whispered, "what are you supposed to be?" Ethan's voice was barely audible. "Yours," he said. The word hit Linda like a wave. She didn't know how to respond. She didn't know how to breathe around it. So she did what she'd always done. She stepped back, trembling, because wanting Ethan felt like stepping off a cliff. Ethan's face hardened instantly, as if he'd slammed a door closed inside himself. "Get some sleep," he said, voice flat. "We have work tomorrow." He left the kitchen. Linda stood there, shaking, her heart bruised by what almost happened. The proof came 2 days later. Linda sat in Ethan's study as the investigator laid out photos on the desk. Gavin entering a hotel with a woman. Gavin kissing her in the elevator. Gavin handing her a bag that looked expensive. Gavin texting, smiling, careless. The investigator slid a printed transcript across the desk. Audio. Gavin's voice, recorded. "I don't love her," Gavin said in the recording. "I'm marrying her because I have to. Once I get what I need, I'll be gone." Linda's stomach clenched. Her hands trembled as she held the paper. Ethan's voice was low, lethal. "This is enough," he said. Linda's throat burned. "Then I can end it," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Yes," he said. "And we can challenge the will condition legally. Your father won't lose his claim." Linda exhaled shakily, relief and fear crashing together. But then the investigator added, "There's more." Ethan's gaze sharpened. "Speak." The investigator hesitated. "We traced communications between Mr. Rowe and a third party," he said. Encrypted emails, offshore accounts. Linda's skin prickled. Who? The investigator slid a name across the desk. Linda stared at it, confused. I don't know this. Ethan went very still, his face drained of color. Linda looked up sharply. Ethan. Ethan's voice was cold, tight. I know that name, he said. Linda's heart lurched. Who is it? Ethan's eyes were darker than Linda had ever seen them. It's someone tied to your disappearance, he said. Someone we suspected years ago, but we could never prove it. Linda's breath caught. So Gavin really is just a tool, she whispered. Ethan's jaw clenched. Yes, he said. And they're moving again, because you're close to remembering. Linda's hands shook. What do we do? Ethan's gaze locked on hers, intense and protective. We end Gavin, he said. And then we finish what started the night you came to us. Linda swallowed hard. How? Ethan's voice was a vow. Together, he said. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday. By Thursday, Linda was no longer a bride-to-be. She met Gavin in a private room at a high-end restaurant, neutral territory, surrounded by witnesses without being obvious. Ethan sat at the bar across the room, not watching openly, but present in a way Linda could feel like a heartbeat. Gavin arrived late, smug, adjusting his cufflinks. Linda placed the photos on the table. Gavin's smile faltered as he scanned them. Then his expression hardened. Where did you get these? Linda's voice was steady despite the shaking in her hands. Does it matter? She said. It's real? Gavin leaned back, eyes narrowing. So you're going to throw away everything, he sneered. Your inheritance? Your father's future? Linda's chest tightened, but she lifted her chin. No, she said, because you're not getting what you want. Gavin's gaze sharpened. You can't break this, he said. Not without consequences. Linda slid the transcript across the table. I have evidence of fraud, she said. Evidence you planned this. Evidence you never intended to honor the marriage. Gavin's face darkened. Linda's voice turned colder. If you fight me, I release everything, she said, publicly. You'll lose your reputation, your career, and your freedom. Gavin's jaw clenched. For a moment, Linda saw the real him, angry, cornered, mean. You think you're safe? He hissed. You think your precious billionaire guardian can protect you forever? Linda's skin went cold at the threat. But before she could respond, Ethan was suddenly there, standing behind Linda, one hand resting lightly on the back of her chair. Gavin froze. Ethan's voice was quiet, terrifying. Say that again, he said. Gavin swallowed, trying to regain confidence. This is between me and Linda, he snapped. Ethan leaned forward slightly. No, he said. This is between you and the consequences of your choices. Gavin's eyes flicked between them. You're obsessed with her, he spat. That's what this is. You've been waiting for your chance. Ethan didn't deny it. He simply looked down at Linda, and for the first time, his expression wasn't guarded. It was honest. Then he looked back at Gavin. She doesn't belong to anyone, Ethan said, voice low. But if you threaten her again, you'll learn exactly how much power I have. Gavin's face twisted. You can't, Ethan cut him off. You're done, he said. Sign the agreement my lawyers sent. Walk away quietly, or I bury you. Gavin's hands trembled with rage, but he was a coward wearing confidence like a mask. He stood abruptly, chair scraping. This isn't over, he snarled at Linda. Ethan's eyes narrowed. It is, he said. Gavin stormed out. Linda sat there, shaking. Ethan didn't sit. He crouched beside her instead, voice softer. Are you okay? Linda swallowed hard. I think so, she whispered. Ethan's gaze searched her face. You're free, he said. The words cracked something inside Linda. She exhaled, then began to cry, silent tears spilling as relief overwhelmed her. Ethan didn't hesitate. He pulled her into his arms, holding her right there in the restaurant, as if he didn't care who saw, as if he'd waited years for the right to do it. Linda pressed her face against his chest, shaking. Ethan's voice was low, fierce. "No one is taking you from me again," he murmured. Linda's throat tightened. "Ethan." He pulled back just enough to look at her, and then, finally, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle at first. It was desperate, years of restraint breaking open. It was Ethan saying everything he'd never said with words. Linda's breath caught, her hands clutching his coat. For a moment the world narrowed to the heat of his mouth, the steady strength of his arms, the impossible truth that what she'd been running from had been her safest place all along. Then Ethan pulled back, breathing hard, eyes dark with emotion. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have waited. I should have—" Linda touched his cheek, trembling. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't apologize for caring." Ethan's gaze softened. "Linda," he said, voice raw, "I've cared since the night I found you." Linda's chest tightened. "I know," she whispered. And in that moment something shifted again, something deep inside her mind like a lock clicking open. A memory flashed. A little girl screaming, a woman crying, holding her close, a voice, male, angry, saying, "She's in the way." Then Ethan, young Ethan, running through rain, finding her, lifting her. Linda gasped, clutching her head. Ethan caught her instantly. "Linda, what is it?" Her breath was ragged. "I remembered," she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened. "What did you see?" Linda swallowed hard, shaking. "I saw my mother," she whispered. "She was crying. She was trying to protect me." Tears spilled down Linda's face. "And I heard a man," she said. "He said I was in the way." Ethan's jaw clenched. "That's enough," he said, voice grim. "That's a lead." Linda's hands trembled. "Ethan," she whispered, terrified. "What if the people who took me, what if they're still watching?" Ethan's arms tightened around her. "Then they picked the wrong girl," he said, "because you're not alone anymore." Linda looked up at him, heart pounding. Ethan's gaze held hers, steady and fierce. "And they picked the wrong man to stand beside you," he added. The next day, Linda returned to the mansion with Ethan, but the mansion no longer felt like a gilded cage. It felt like a fortress. Ethan's security doubled. The investigators moved faster. The lawyers filed emergency motions to contest the will's condition on the grounds of manipulation and fraud. But the enemy didn't stay quiet. That night, Linda received a message from an unknown number. "Stop digging or you'll lose everything." Linda's blood ran cold. Ethan read the message, expression turning lethal. "They're scared," he said. Linda's voice trembled. "Or dangerous." Ethan's gaze lifted to meet hers. "Both," he said, "which means we're close." Linda swallowed hard. "Close to what?" Ethan's voice was quiet. "Close to the truth," he said. "Close to who took you. Close to why your mother's will was twisted to force you into that marriage." Linda's hands shook. "And my father," she whispered. "Do we find him too?" Ethan's gaze softened slightly. "Yes," he said. "We find him. We protect his rights. And we make sure the people who hurt your mother, who broke your life, pay." Linda's throat tightened. "My mother died heartbroken," she whispered. "Because I was gone." Ethan's hand covered hers. "That wasn't your fault," he said. Linda's eyes burned. "It feels like it." Ethan leaned closer. "Then let me carry it with you," he murmured. Linda looked at him, her heart aching with gratitude and fear. "You're a billionaire," she whispered, a shaky laugh slipping out. "You could have anyone. Why me?" Ethan's eyes held hers, unwavering. "Because you're not anyone," he said. "You're Linda." The days that followed were a collision of love and danger. Ethan didn't just protect Linda. He spoiled her in ways that weren't flashy but meaningful. He brought her favorite food when she forgot to eat. He had fresh flowers placed in her room, not grand bouquets, but small, soft arrangements that smelled like calm. He sat beside her during therapy appointments, designed to coax memories gently instead of ripping them open. And when Linda woke from nightmares, Ethan was always there, sometimes in the doorway, sometimes at her bedside, but always close enough that she could reach him. One evening, after a long day of legal battles, Ethan took Linda out, not to a restaurant, not to some public display of wealth, but to the mansion's rooftop garden. A blanket was laid out. Warm lanterns flickered softly. A quiet dinner waited. Linda stared, stunned. "You did this?" Ethan's mouth curved slightly. "You've had enough chaos," he said. "You deserve peace." Linda's chest tightened. "This is beautiful." Ethan sat beside her. "Eat," he said, then added quietly, "and breathe." Linda did. For the first time in months, her shoulders lowered, her heartbeat slowed. She looked up at the stars overhead. Ethan watched her like he was afraid she'd disappear if he blinked too long. Linda touched the star pendant at her throat. "You gave me this," she murmured. "Years ago." Ethan nodded. "I didn't understand it then," Linda whispered. "I thought it was just a gift." Ethan's eyes softened. "It was a promise," he said. Linda swallowed. "And now?" she asked quietly. Ethan leaned closer. "Now it's a reminder," he murmured, "that you belong to yourself, and I belong to you if you'll have me." Linda's breath caught. "Ethan," he reached for her hand, interlacing their fingers. "I won't pressure you," he said. "I won't trap you the way Gavin tried to. His voice broke slightly. "I just want to be the person you can come home to." Tears filled Linda's eyes, because home was a word she'd been searching for her entire life. And somehow, impossibly, it had been standing in front of her since the night she was 8. Linda leaned in and kissed him gently this time, slow, deliberate, a choice. Ethan's hand cupped her cheek, reverent. When they pulled back, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "We'll finish this," he whispered, "and then you'll have the life you deserve." Linda's voice trembled. "With you?" Ethan's gaze held hers. "If that's what you want," he said. Linda smiled through tears. "It is," she whispered. But even as love wrapped around them, the threat remained. Because somewhere out there someone had stolen a child, broken a mother's heart, twisted a will, and tried to sell Linda's future to the highest bidder. And they weren't done. The next morning an envelope appeared at the mansion gates. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Linda at 8 years old, standing in the rain. And behind her, half hidden in shadow, was a man's silhouette. On the back of the photo, a message was written in bold black ink. "You were never meant to come back." Linda's hands shook as she stared at it. Ethan's arms came around her from behind, steady and strong. "They're trying to scare you," he murmured against her hair. Linda swallowed hard. "It's working." Ethan turned her gently to face him. His eyes were fierce, unwavering. "Let them try," he said, "because I'm not the boy you met years ago. I don't just make promises anymore." Linda's breath trembled. "What do you do now?" Ethan's voice was a vow. "I keep them," he said. And for the first time in a long time, Linda believed completely that she could survive what was coming. Because she wasn't the lost girl in the rain anymore. She was the woman who remembered, the woman who fought. And she had a billionaire at her side who wasn't just rich, he was relentless.